So step 8 is all about risk assessments and risk analysis. So let's go to risk analysis first, and I'll quickly show you the risk matrix. So this is built in, comes with every site. Every RiskEZI site has one of these. So you have the matrix, it's set up there, it's got the probabilities and the consequences all laid out in a nice little grid. But let's say you don't actually like this nice little grid, you want to change things. No stress, you can edit the actual matrix itself and you can change all of these conditions. Let's say, oh, I don't like the word extreme, I want to say something different. Well, that's fine. You go ahead and in risk analysis, change the classes. See, extreme can become awful if you like. That's fine for you, whatever you need to say. Awful. Okay, so it's changed and updated. And if we go back to our risk matrix, instead of having extreme, we now have awful across the board. So there you go, update it as you need. You can do the same with the probabilities, redefine the probabilities, just hit the edit button. Maybe you want to have something different, change the percentages, whatever works for you. Same with the consequences. Maybe you're not so worried about financial or physical, but you're thinking more about reputation or something like that. That's fine. Change the risk consequences. That's totally up to you. Set it up how it works for your organization. Okay, so that's the risk analysis menu. The risk matrix, of course, is at the very heart of RiskEZI, and it is where all of the risk assessments flow out of. So on the risk assessments menu, you'll see all of the ones that I've created. However, when you first set up your RiskEZI site, you won't have a whole list like this. You need to set up the ones that work for your organization or your church. I don't know what's going to happen in your organization or your church, but you do, and you can create the risk assessments that you need. So a few things to say here. One, you have a whole list. Tags are pretty important because they let you search things. Let's say you want to know everything about bomb risks at your church. Just search by bomb and you get the only risk assessment which actually includes a bomb threat. So there you go, Joe's Fruit Bar. What happens, who knows, but there might be a bomb threat. They'll be training on bomb defusal. That's cool. Okay, now back to the risk assessments for a moment. Tags work pretty well for searching things, but yeah, it's entirely up to you what tags you create. You just create them when you create obviously I've got a lot of risk assessments for youth. You can also search by safe work, whether something is a safe work practice, yes or no. And obviously you can combine these search fields. You can combine tags and safe work practice and find out. So safe work practice basically means this has been approved to be a standard risk assessment for your organization or church. As in, yes, we've made the risk assessment, we reviewed it, we agree, this is our standard. Mark it as a safe work practice, and that's what everybody does from now on at your organization, because we all follow the rules and do exactly what we're told. Okay, so a few more things to say. Risk assessments. Let's just go ahead and create one. So you press the plus button like everywhere else on the site, give it a name, I don't know, let's call it Hoop Mania. Let's say it's about basketball. That's a new tag. I also want to say youth, but that's already existing, so let's pick youth. And we'll also say ball because we want to add it to that as well. Okay, those are the tags we'll use. Now we'll just say people will play basketball. We won't tick this as a safe work practice because it hasn't been reviewed yet. So that's it, that's all done. Then we look at the risk matrix. Okay, so we can click it here and review it. Ah, yes, we remember this. No stress. We better add some, hey? So let's add a row. And this is where we actually do the risk assessment. You can add as many rows as you like, but this is the risk. This is the identified problem, Hoop Mania. Okay, cool. So what are the hazards attached to Hoop Mania? People will go crazy. Let's say that will happen. That's a risk. It's a hazard. It might happen. The probability is pretty rare. The consequences are fairly minor. So it's already a low risk. That's good. But we probably should have a control measure. Let's say we will not serve sugar, just to help people not go crazy. And with our control measure, the probability becomes rare and the consequence is pretty much insignificant. And so we have a low risk rating as well. That's pretty good stuff. I don't actually want to add a whole bunch more because you've seen how to do it. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these ones, because if I try and save one that's empty, it'll throw an error and say, hey, put something in that line. Okay, so there we go. We've added our row, we've added our risk assessment. At Hoop Mania, people play basketball, but there's a chance they'll go crazy. So we won't serve sugar. That's our risk control. Submit that. Boom. We now have a risk assessment for Hoop Mania. Now that's all lovely, but it's a bit silly, and who knows whether Hoop Mania is actually a real thing or not. But now let's say that we had an event. So we'd go to events, add a new event, and we'll pick youth. And here's the team. So the team pop up, and we'll call it Youth Night Ball Games. This is what's going to happen. This is the event. It's going to happen at Big Church, so no stress. We're going to start it at 6 o'clock p.m. and finish at 8 o'clock, and it will happen tomorrow, Friday. That's great. And we'll end it on the same day. We don't want to end it the next day. Okay, and submit that. So that's creating an event, which I should also look at later, but for now, basically just going to show you as I talk about risk assessments. Once an event has been created, you get a whole bunch of stuff. The branch, the department, the leaders, the team, you can add or remove the team, the location, organizers, and what status it is. It's working, which means it's not yet approved. It's not yet going to happen. So go ahead and add a section, and let's call it playing basketball. And that's what's going to happen. We won't bother with any notes. So in playing basketball, we realize, oh, hang on, I ticked there's a chance of Hoop Mania. So let's look it up. Basketball hoops. Oh, this is good. Well, we wanted Hoop Mania, so let's add that to our event. Yep, cool. But that other one looked pretty good too. So let's have a look at that. Add risk assessment. What was that other one? Hoop. Basketball hoops. Big Church has some freestanding basketball hoops that can be used in it. Oh, this looks good. Let's have a look at this. Add it to the event, and then we can review what it says. Basketball hoops. Notes, hazards, control measures, all set up. Looks pretty good. Okay. We'll mark that as ready for review. That event is now ready to proceed. Done. Okay, so that will go to our event coordinator or event manager or whatever the role is that you set up, and they will be told this event has been set up, it's ready to go ahead. Can you check the risk assessment, check everything's okay? And if you do that, you can tick it as confident that it can be approved. Then it'll pop up in the RiskEZI calendar, and people get sent emails saying, hey, you're on the team. Please come ahead and read the risk assessment so you know what we need to plan for. So that's how you actually use a risk assessment. Now, you'll notice that I made a very silly one called Hoop Mania, but you can actually do serious ones like handling a cyclone. What happens if a known sex offender walks into your church? What happens if a musician gets injured? It's crazy. What happens if the rapture happens? Wow. So the other thing that you can do is set up a risk that is always happening at your church as its own risk assessment. So let's say your church is right next door to an airport, and there's always the risk of really loud noises hurting people's ears. Set up a risk assessment called airport and automatically add it to any event that's going to be happening at your church location. Okay, that's enough about that. Risk assessments don't need to all be set up when you first set up your site. Maybe just add those site-wide ones that I just mentioned, and then let all of your users add the risk assessments which are pertinent to their department as they come into the site and do their bit. You'll probably have to create a few just to give them a feel for it. But the other thing I should mention is that you can always go to the community public list, and this is where you can actually download any risk assessment that's been uploaded from any user of RiskEZI anywhere. So let's say there's a church in Canberra or Victoria that has run a basketball youth night, and they've created a fantastic risk assessment, but the dates are all wrong. The locations are all wrong. No stress. Go find it on the community public list, download it, save a copy as yours, and then just change the dates to make it work for you. It's one of the most powerful features about RiskEZI is that we can actually build a community and help each other out by sharing our risk assessments and some other resources as well, such as incident templates and so on. That is setting up your risk assessments and risk matrix. Step 8 is complete. Well done.